The transfer portal officially opens this Monday. Here where USC stands in the fray. CFP Selection Sunday is this weekend. What are our picks for the first 12-team playoff? And we make our way to early March Madness predictions. All of that and more coming right up. It's the hour-long season finale of the Water Cooler. Where else would you rather be? Good morning and welcome to the Water Cooler, your home for USC sports banter for the final time in 2024. I'm your host, Thomas Johnson, joined alongside Jack Hallinan and Stefano Fenderich at the desk. We are dedicating the first part of our show entirely to college football, so let's hop right into it with Water Cooler talk. Roll the bump. USC football has already started to lose players to the transfer portal, with Miller Moss, Gino Quinones, Amos Talalele, and most recently, Kyron Hudson announcing they were entering the portal. Who else do you guys expect to hit the portal before all is said and done for USC?
I think since Miller's already confirmed that he's leaving, his good friend Jacoby Lane is probably going to as well, which is going to be a huge loss for USC because he led the team in touchdown receptions, had 3 against Notre Dame, right? So that would be a big miss for the wide receiver room, which has depth, but also might be in a little bit of a precarious position going into next season because I think they underperformed a little bit relative to what people thought this group could be. And if they lose 1, maybe 2 big guys in the offseason, that would be a problem.
I mean, it's really getting concerning. Like, who will be left next year? I mean, maybe Zachariah Branch might leave too. There are rumblings that Makai Lemon might leave, and he's really shown out as one of the stars of that group. Deuce Robinson might leave, although I know that brings Thomas some joy. But I'm really who is Maiyava going to throw to next season if he's still the starting quarterback, which we'll get to in a second. But in the sophomore wide receiver group, that's all that's been talked about this year. Let's see how they progress. Let's see how they develop. And honestly, for the most part, they've stood out and been a bright spot on this team. But now they all might leave. We'll see if they can, replace them. Kyron's already leaving, and Kyron was one of those guys where, you thought, oh, maybe he'll stay. Maybe he'll, continue the legacy here. But he's gone, so I'm just nervous who's coming next. There's too many holes now.
Well, at least for the wide receiver room, I don't think USC ever has to worry about that under Lincoln Riley. Yeah. Sure, losing a bunch of guys is going to be a tough reality, but Lincoln Riley can recruit pretty much any wide receiver he wants. We saw him get Jordan Addison, and there are the whole tampering allegations, whatever. He was able to get Jordan Addison from the portal pretty much immediately. He did have the help of Caleb Williams, of course, but I think USC will be fine in the wide receiver room no matter what. But on those lines, what do you think is the biggest hole for this USC squad heading into next season?
It's got to be the offensive line. I mean, you have 2 offensive linemen who are set to play major roles next season, most likely, leaving the team, in addition to Emmanuel Pregnon accepting a Shrine Bowl invite, signaling that he's probably going to try his luck in the NFL. Those are 3 major contributors to this room that already had struggles next season, and now they have to do the turnover and then build this group back up to at least a decent level in order for Maiyava to be able to show his best.
Yeah, I mean, what really has me nervous is that defensive line. And there were strides from these young freshmen, these true freshmen, but really they're still very largely unproven. You did get the high-ranked recruit earlier this week, but again, true freshman. So I'm really nervous to see what this defensive line is going to look like next season.
Well, and with Matt Entz taking the Fresno State job, do we think any linebackers might be vulnerable in the portal as well? Because the guy who recruited them and really spent considerable time and energy developing this year and making them one of, honestly, USC's better position groups is now gone.
We did see Eric Gentry take to Twitter this week, or I should say X, but it seems like he's coming back. There's always cryptic messages on social media. I think Eric Gentry is the big piece. USC likely losing Mason Cobb and Issa Mascarenas-Arnold to the NFL. We'll see about official announcements. But do you think USC needs to pick up a quarterback in the transfer portal?
It's the big convo. Once again, second straight year where you're thinking, do you stick with the guy that's been here or do you go somewhere else? This season, I do think Mayava should get the job. I think he should stay. He's shown a lot of strides this season. We've shown how Lincoln has been able to succeed in these last 3 games with a mobile quarterback, with a quarterback he can run the RPO. We won't talk about the late game pick sixes. But, he had this tryout, and he showed out. He played very well. I mean, against Notre Dame. Notre Dame's the 10th best ranked defense in the country. Mayava had the most passing yards thrown against Notre Dame all season by 100 yards. He's had success. And, I think it'll really help him to have a full offseason, to be in the system again, knowing he's the starter, and to get really that confidence that, it started out early against Nebraska. He seemed a little nervous. He seemed a little wavy. He threw that pick 6. But then he settled in and he got comfortable, and it seemed like he was really finding a lot of success. So I think Mayava should stay and be the starter.
Well, do you think if Lincoln Riley were to pull in another quarterback from the transfer portal like he did last year with Mayava, do you think that might make Mayava lose confidence?
You do have to be careful about how you plan this progression here, because you have Husan Longstreet coming in, 5-star quarterback. He's probably hoping that he can start as a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
And Mayava gets 1 more year, and then it's Longstreet's. But so then do you take a veteran out of the portal and try to give Mayava competition, or do you just need a body in the room like Jake Jensen kind of was this year, who was never going to be a serious contender for the job, right? I think that's probably where Riley's head's at. Do I need to push Mayava and Longstreet a little bit with someone I'm bringing in? Or do I just need to fill out this room and kind of make a nice environment for them to keep developing?
Well, we did see Lincoln Riley in his signing day press conference allude to the idea of bringing in a transfer portal quarterback. We'll see if he actually ends up doing that. But who is your dream transfer portal pickup for the Trojans this offseason?
Well, we were talking about that wide receiver room being a little dicey, but let's talk about my man, Eric Rivers out of FIU. This man is a dog. And, just watching him, this man has burners. Like, you press this guy, he's going to burn you 80 yards for a touchdown. And, USC kind of had that with a guy like Zachariah Branch, but what's different about Eric Rivers, he really has that unique and extended route tree that a lot of these USC wide receivers haven't had this year. I mean, he's a playmaker. He averages 19 yards a catch. He finished with 62 catches for 1,100 yards. And now I know, it's like a little risky. He's at FIU, like the competition's a little uncertain. But, he's a seasoned player. He played at Memphis his freshman year. He's going to be a redshirt senior next year. He's an experienced guy that can bring a lot of depth to this wide receiver room and give USC a playmaker, that they, at times, it seemed like they needed this past season. You never really saw them hit those, 80-yard deep balls downfield, except for, the Makai Lemon catch and run. So I think Eric Rivers could be a good guy to get. So we'll see if he comes.
Dare I say that might be a Jordan Addison-esque addition to the team.
Well, I don't know about Jordan Addison.
I know, it's a high bar, but
okay, yeah, no,
it's possible. Jordan Addison was coming from Pitt, a less heralded program. Yeah. Anyways, I went with Georgia cornerback Julian Humphrey, currently a number 13 player in the portal, or expected to enter the portal per 247. And, look, Doug Belk and Danton Lynn can just do so much worse than adding a Georgia defensive back to this group, especially if Jalen Smith is leaving, kind of, see if he can make the NFL, etc. Just get some more help in that secondary, add a high pedigree player, and I think you're in good shape.
Yeah, those are good picks. I'm going to go with Andrew Jones out of Grambling State. Another one of those, unheralded programs, but he had so many tackles for losses, double digits this year. The Trojans need that, especially if they're losing some pieces on the defensive line. But unfortunately, we will not see USC in the college football playoff, but the show must go on. We're about to see the first iteration of the 12-team format, and there has been a lot of discourse about which conferences should get more teams in the playoff. With the current CFP rankings, how are we feeling about the 12-team format? Is it good for the game? Just looking at some of these teams on this board right here.
As things stand, I really have no issues. I think where things might get interesting is if Clemson beats SMU in the ACC title game this week, therefore earning the automatic berth, you're going to have an awkward conversation in the committee room between a 3-loss SMU team and Alabama, Ole Miss, these other SEC teams that have a few losses, have some quality wins, but are currently not maybe in the picture, or in Alabama's case, on the bubble. And that's going to be a tough conversation. Do you punish SMU for playing an extra game, for having a great season, and maybe just not being able to put the cherry on top of their resume at the very end? Or, Alabama's had some hiccups this year, right? So how do you balance what you perceive as the quality of the league versus the quality of individual teams in lesser divisions? So I think that's going to be a harsh conversation. Personally, I think SMU should make it no matter what.
Justice for the ponies.
Justice for the ponies. But we'll see what happens.
And I mean, the problem with it is, though, no matter what system you're going to have, you're always going to have a team that's on the outside looking in. You have this with March Madness where there's 68 teams, and you still have like, oh, we should have made it in, we should have made it in. So this is a problem with anything. But, let's be honest. I think to speak to the concerns of a lot of college football purists, the way it's set up right now, games don't matter as much. And that's what made college football so great. You had every single game was like a championship game because you couldn't lose or you'd be out completely. With the 12-team playoff, it's alleviated some of these things where you have a Big Ten championship game against Oregon and Penn State where it literally doesn't matter who wins in the scheme of things. Maybe for the bye, but other than that, realistically, they're not really playing for anything. Both teams can lose and will easily both still get in. So I think that's what has set up with the 12-team playoff. What I will say, though, in the current system that we are in, if you're a fan of a team like Alabama or Ole Miss that just barely gets left out, stop complaining. Stop complaining.
Yeah, you win your regular season games and you get in.
You control your own destiny. You had Florida State go 12-0, 13-0 last season and get left out. And everyone made fun of Florida State fans. So, let's keep that same energy this season for the Crimson Tide, MJ, and Ole Miss.
Well, let's talk about specifically the SEC. Are there any teams in the SEC that are currently in the bracket that you think shouldn't be, or any teams in the SEC that aren't in the bracket that you think should be?
I mean, I think based on recent form, South Carolina might be a more interesting inclusion than Alabama.
Gamecocks, yeah.
But I understand Alabama has the win against Georgia. That's still a quality win, even though Georgia has also had some struggles recently, i.e. Georgia Tech. So we'll see, but I think Alabama's the right team for now.
Yeah, I really would like to see the Gamecocks get in there. They've had a really great season. They've proven, they've been there in every single game. They've been competitive throughout the year, but the committee is the committee. So we all know they're going to end up giving it to the Alabama and the Crimson Tide, but...
Well, let's hear more about the college football playoff because conference championship weekend is nearly upon us, and all of this can shift before Selection Sunday. Let's toss it over to MJ and Hayes to break it down.
Thanks, Thomas. I'm Hayes Flanagan alongside MJ Newsome, and Conference Championship Week is upon us, and that means the first 12-team CFP bracket is almost finalized. MJ, can you break down this current bracket for us?
Well, I'm not on the playoff committee, but I will do my best. So let's start with taking a look at the north side of the bracket. If you look from everywhere up, all those teams are likely safe, and we'll get more into that in a second. Everyone south, maybe not so much. And let's talk about a few intriguing matchups, at least projected in the first round. Hayes, my favorite. 8v9, Ohio State versus Tennessee.
Shocking, SEC.
And it's a big-time thing that Ohio State is the 8 seed because imagine if it was flipped. Got to go to Neyland Stadium, one of the toughest places in all of college football to play. That is going to be a fun game. Let's go to the southeast portion of the bracket. Notre Dame and Alabama. That's a fun game. Bama maybe getting to sneak in with 3 losses, but Notre Dame playing some really good football. It's going to be a cold December 20th game in South Bend. Might be a Friday night.
Bama doesn't know what South Bend
There could be
is
some
doing.
snow on the ground. That's going to be a very
no.
intriguing matchup, but obviously the bracket will progress. Things could change after this weekend. We'll see what happens.
Well, as you mentioned, some of these teams are locks and others aren't, like SMU and Boise State. So let's break down this SMU versus Clemson matchup. So as you can see for Clemson, I just think this game versus South Carolina is way too telling. You can see 1 minute left in the fourth, and Clemson lets South Carolina score. And this drive really said it all for me. Drops back in the pocket and throws an interception with 12 seconds left. They could have won that game. Instead, they're walking away with another loss. Okay, let's talk about SMU now. I think this game versus Duke was very telling for this SMU team. They played a 9-3 Duke, not a bad team, and they scored in overtime, and then they showed how clutch they are with a huge defensive stop right here to take home a very great win for SMU in overtime in Raleigh. I just think that this was a huge game for SMU, and it showed that they can be clutch unlike their opponents, Clemson. So That's my key matchup this weekend.
Yeah, Duke's a good football team. SMU playing some great ball, 11-1, great season, first year in the ACC. Things might get fishy, though, if they lose that game. We can talk about that more in a second. Let's talk about two teams that are really playing the waiting game, and we'll start with the team I just talked about in the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. So go back to week 2. We all remember this disaster class against Northern Illinois. Riley Leonard, maybe your worst throw of the season. You lose 16-14 against the kind of subpar Northern Illinois team. Now, the funny thing about Notre Dame is they have played flawless since then. 10 straight wins, have beaten some good teams like USC. We'll see those highlights in a second. 62-yard field goal, absolutely Hail Mary at Notre Dame, not going to happen. Like I mentioned, they're playing good ball. The funny thing about Notre Dame, though, Hayes, is if Notre Dame was the number 1 team in the country and the 11 teams behind them in the CFP rankings they played in the regular season, they all beat them by 70, it doesn't matter. They can only be the 5 seed at best because they're not in a conference. Another team that is really struggling right now is Ohio State. They had a big win against Penn State, really a marquee win that we thought might shoot them all the way up to number 2, number 1 maybe in the final rankings. And then the Wolverines did it for not the first, not the second, not the third, but the 4th straight year. Ryan Day's, man, it can't get it done against the Wolverines. And Michigan got a marquee win that really makes it interesting for Ohio State. And the biggest thing that I'm interested in is if Penn State loses to Oregon on Saturday. How is the committee going to value a Penn State team with 2 losses and an Ohio State team with 2 losses, knowing Ohio State beat them, but Penn State went to the conference championship game? Also, look at the bracket, Hayes. If I'm Penn State, I might want to lose the Big Ten championship game. I'd rather play Arizona State as the 12 seed, go play Boise, than have to go play Oregon.
I
possibly
couldn't
down
agree
the road.
more. And something interesting that we all need to look out for is this Boise State UNLV matchup. This is playing on UNLV's home turf at Allegiant Stadium, so do not count them out. Matthew Slocum may be gone, but who knows what they could pull out versus Boise State. And this bracket will not look the same on Sunday when the final picks are in. I know I'll be on my couch all weekend watching how this plays out. But we have a little more CFP breakdown. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks for that, MJ and Hayes. Well, once the conference championship games are over, we immediately jump into award season. Voting is officially open for most of the major awards. So guys, who are your picks for some of the college football playoff trophies at the end of the year?
Well, I know you wanted to talk about the Jim Thorpe Awards, specifically about who's not included in the finalists, Travis Hunter. I wonder if, unless he wins the Heisman, he might go home trophyless this season, because I don't think he should win the Biletnikoff either. What do you think about that stuff?
Honestly, it's kind of tough. He's kind of pulling double duty. I don't think he'll come home with either the Biletnikoff or the Jim Thorpe, obviously. But I think he will come home with some hardware, the Heisman. But I don't know.
Which would be crazy. Like, can we just talk about that? Like,
Yeah.
He's not even a finalist for the defensive back award, and yet that's. I know he's playing every snap on
Kind
both
of
sides
smells
of the
like
ball.
a fraud alert to me. I don't know.
Well, it's about the total contribution to the team.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just because he's not individually the best receiver or individually the best defensive back in the country, when you combine those two efforts, all of his interceptions, his game-breaking ability in the pass game,
I mean, just look at that catch right there.
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Y'all have been hanging out with MJ too much. Oh my lord. Okay, like we get it. He plays both sides. Just pick one. Just pick one.
Wait, why would he pick one where you can play both so effectively? I don't think he should win the Heisman. I know that's not the conversation we're having, but I think it was almost criminal that he wasn't added to the Jim Thorpe finalist list. I don't care if he doesn't win. He wasn't even a finalist.
What, you want to give him like a new award? Best player that plays on both sides of the ball award? Is that what you're
Maybe,
suggesting?
maybe we should have the Travis Hunter Memorial Award. He's not dead, but
Maybe in like
for
15 years.
two-sided players.
Maybe in 15 years, the next generation of water cooler on-air personalities will be talking about the Travis Hunter multifaceted award.
Wow.
And they can point to this moment
They can
when
point
it
to
all
this
started.
moment.
But yeah, I mean, I think, look, he probably will win the Heisman in my opinion, but McMillan from Arizona definitely has the better case for the Biletnikoff. I mean, he has over 1,300 yards and 8 touchdowns for a terrible Arizona team that dropped all the way back this season to 4-8, and he just has better yards per reception than Hunter. Hunter has arguably, had the great contribution to this Colorado offense that they needed to elevate, but I think McMillan individually is the better player in that position specifically.
No, I mean, touching on what you were getting at, I mean, Arizona, I thought they were going to be really good this year. They have been god-awful, except for McMillan. He's been showing out no matter what. I mean, he's going to be a great player in the NFL. Hopefully the Jets can get him. But yeah, no, I think he definitely deserves a Biletnikoff. He's had a great year.
Yeah, it's been a real shame that the Wildcats, after losing Jed Fish, haven't been able to put it together. And I think that might hurt McMillan's case just because he is playing for a bad team. But at the end of the day, the Biletnikoff should be going to the best receiver. We saw Jordan Addison win it, and Pitt, they were a good team when he was there, but not the greatest. So hopefully McMillan's able to pull open some hardware. But let's talk about what I'm super excited to talk about. Big Ten football. Who's going to take home the Ray Guy Punter Award?
Oh, I've got an answer for you. Let me tell you about my main man, Eddie Chaplitsky. I was talking about it a little before the show with my favorite cameraman, Anthony Bettino. But after the UCLA game, he got, this big victory win, someone asked him, hey, Eddie, there's been some talk, do you think, how does it feel being a Ray Guy semifinalist? And, a usual, USC football player will give a PR answer. Oh, it's not about me, it's about the team. No. Eddie Chaplitsky goes, well, yeah, I'm the best punter in the damn country. He believes it. He has the swagger. He's doing the Rocky Balboa celebrations after. Every time he steps on the field, he's looking right at Ivan Drago. Notre Dame this past weekend, the man punts a 72-yard punt, gets called back. He then punts it for 56 yards and is throwing his helmet on the ground because he's that damn good. Oh my God, he's amazing. He has one touchback this year. One. And Eddie Chaplitsky is that
and the
guy.
USC player nearly saved that one. I agree. I think Eddie Chaplitsky should take it. But let's head to a quick break. And when we come back, we talk both the USC men's and women's basketball teams, a big week in college basketball, and our dream Thanksgiving dinner guest. See you soon. Welcome back to the Water Cooler. I am now joined on the desk by MJ Newsom and Hayes Flanagan. Feel like I just saw you guys on stage.
Yeah,
today,
crazy, right?
But welcome back. And now let's start off the second part of our show by talking about the best fall semester team on USC's campus, women's basketball. The Trojans are still the number 6 team in the country, but have appeared shaky against the 2 ranked teams they have played, falling to Notre Dame and barely beating Ole Miss to open the season. If USC is to compete for a national championship, what do the Trojans have to do to improve?
I think we're all going to say the same thing, honestly. Mine's twofold, but 3-point shooting. If they want to be any good team, they have to be better from the 3-point line. Versus Notre Dame, they were 7% from the 3-point line. Notre Dame they were 33, which is a pretty good number, but 7, you cannot shoot 7% when playing a ranked opponent. And it's the turnovers for me also. Disciplined teams do not turn over the ball. They're averaging 16 turnovers per game right now. And that just cannot happen when they go see UConn in a week in Storrs, Connecticut. That is a hard game on prime time. That cannot happen. The turnovers have to stop, and the 3-point shooting has to get better.
So Hayes, it's funny, they say great minds think alike. I was going to say 3-point shooting as well.
Me 3.
You got to shoot the 3 better. As a team this season, you're shooting just 32%, which isn't horrible, but it should be better. So obviously the 3-point shooting's got to be better. The turnovers got to be better. But you got to find people to score the basketball, man. It can't be the USC Juju Watkins. It's the USC Trojans. And right now, it's only been Juju. And look, anybody can score against St. Louis. Anybody can score against the 0-8 Cal Baptist.
Whoa. No, just to St. Louis.
My bad. That was a bad example. That's your school. But they're not the same caliber of team as the Notre Dames, the UConns, the UCLAs. You go back to that Notre Dame game. Kiki Iriefin was a non-factor. She got completely shut down by Kate Gavall, who's a freshman. Now, Kate Gavall is a very good freshman, one of the best players in the country at her age, but she got shut down. You got to find a way to be dynamic and score the basketball down the post because Marshall's there to really be your defensive player. She can score, but you got to find more scoring in the post. You got to find more perimeter scoring. It can't be Juju goes out and has to score 30 points every night. You're not going to be good if you do that.
But I also want to add, you saw that Notre Dame and how she was being face guarded the whole entire game. That girl was making direct eye contact with her. And you saw that when Juju gets shut down, that offense loses a lot of their spunk and a lot of their energy. And I think that also comes from they have 10 underclassmen. Kiki and Rhea need to step up in those moments like that. When Juju is being face guarded, she's being shut down, and you need to say, okay, we have bet on that. We are seasoned vets in college basketball. Let's take this game over for ourselves.
You got to see Talia Vidalhoffen get going as well. She's really been pretty quiet.
And we saw last year, Mackenzie Forbes was that player who could do that. Juju Watkins gets shut down. Mackenzie Forbes, not the greatest player in the world, but she could get 27
She can hit the
points
three
for
ball.
the Trojans. And Kiki Urifin was supposed to be that player this year, and she's had a couple of good games scoring in the double digits, but she needs to do more. And she was the big transfer for the Trojans. You're not going to expect all of these five-star freshmen to really produce. Like, that's just not going to happen. Just the way, not many people were expecting Juju to do the season she had last year. Sure, a lot of hype. These freshmen don't have the hype as much as Watkins did. So I just don't know what to say other than Iriafin needs to be better. I think that's the biggest change. But at this point in the season, how are you guys feeling about USC's national championship chances?
I would say I feel worse. I mean, I think watching that Notre Dame game, it was a complete debacle. And now give credit to Notre Dame. It's a very, very talented team. But you played at home. You've got the time advantage. Notre Dame has to cross a few time zones. And you flat out just got whipped. It was very telling of how weak this USC team is. And I think you mentioned Mackenzie Forbes, another person, Caleb Padilla. Those are two big pieces you're really missing from last season. Mackenzie Forbes can provide that three-point shooting. Padilla is the ball handler, the distributor, the defender. USC doesn't really have that this year. And I worry that that's going to come back to haunt you. You got to have more scoring outside of Juju, and you got to have those key pieces. And right now, USC doesn't have it.
Do you think when Iriafin, Von Oelhoffen, and the freshmen truly buy into the system and learn it, do you think that might change?
But you say when?
Yeah.
We're what, 8-9 games into the season? I mean, you got to start getting going now. Like, you play UConn in a week. Like, the time is now. You got to get going.
Yeah, to your point, I think I'm uneasy. I don't think I'm totally doubtful that they could make a national championship run, but they have a huge schedule coming ahead. UConn, Michigan, Nebraska, all ranked teams, all in the next 3 weeks, and I think that'll be a very telling part for the Trojans. I mean, Christmas break is always a huge kind of stint of time for teams to kind of develop their leadership, develop, when are they going to win or lose games in the important parts. And so I think, it's going to be a very telling next 3 weeks.
And real quick, I will say the Notre Dame loss was pretty bad, but I think it's one USC needed. I think if USC finds a way to escape and win that game, it could be much rockier down the road than learning from a loss like that.
I agree. You want those early season losses to kind of, I don't embolden you to get better. So hopefully USC able to do that. But on the other side of Galen Center, USC men's basketball is not even close to sniffing the rankings. The Trojans are on a 3-game losing streak, losing their Big Ten opener to Oregon Wednesday night. With USC sitting at 5-4, just how bad is this team going to be?
Honestly, everyone's so negative about this team. Like, what did you expect? 5-4? That's pretty good for them right now. Like,
well,
USC football 6-6. They have a better record than them right now. So let's just work through that.
Yeah, but did USC football lose by 35 points to St. Mary's?
And yes, maybe the gas tank is emptying on the most bus. But I liked what I saw against USC and Oregon. I liked, the defense that they had. USC, the issue, and I think that's going to be a continued issue, is they score a few points off the bench. They do not have a deep team. And so that was a huge issue versus Oregon. Oregon had 30 points off the bench, and USC had 7. And that's going to be an issue when your team deep in the season is tired. You've played so many games, and you need people to come off the bench and score some points for you. And I also think that USC played really great in the paint on Wednesday. They outscored Oregon by 10 points, and I think those are some bright spots that we can look forward to when they do play middle-of-the-pack Big Ten teams, and they can kind of show what they've been doing. And they're a good defensive team, and I don't know. I'm not a huge hater of this USC team this year.
Well, the Trojans were picked to finish 14th out of 18 teams in the Big Ten. MJ, are we liking that? Do you think 14th is a good, reasonable answer?
I mean, yeah, based on what I've seen, I think we could finish 18th. I know, look, like I said earlier, great minds think alike. I got a lot of the same thinking about this USC men's basketball team, but this team could be worse than last year. And I think, and I don't want to say that as a super negative, because look at it. Eric Musselman comes into a team that only has 2 returners, in Harrison Hordery and J.D. Plow, who don't play. You had 16 transfers. Everybody on your roster that is playing is new and has not played with anyone else for more than, 3 months now. And so you're still learning, you're still gelling, and that takes time. But the issue, Hayes, like you said, is the depth. And it really showed on Wednesday against Oregon. And like you said, this is a scrappy bunch. They play good defense. That's what Eric Musselman coaches. These guys are going to come ready to play every single night. But the skill-wise, the drop-off is there, and the depth drop-off, man, it was really there. When USC had a chance to really take the reins of that game, the legs started getting tired. The foul trouble with Chibuzo Abo, that really hurt. And Oregon had fresh legs running in and out, up and down the court. That's what really hurts you. This team lacks depth and consistency. St. Thomas hasn't been there. It's been Desmond Claude's show. He's got to find his Robin to his Batman.
Well, we've already talked about the college football postseason, but it's never too early to discuss the college basketball season. On both the men's and women's side, who do you think can make a deep run?
I'm going to go with UConn on the women's. Sorry, so shocking, I know. UConn on the women's side, 7-0, took 2 good wins against UNC and Ole Miss. They just know how to win basketball games. That is a storied program that knows how to win. I just don't see them not going as far as the Final Four. Like, they will get there. I don't know past that, but they will get there.
I'm very confident about UConn as well, man. That's a really good ball team. I want to take a team that we've already seen. It's Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame, despite having 2 losses, is a really talented bunch. And they had a big overtime win at home last night against number 4 Texas. And Hannah Hidalgo, despite being 5'6", I believe, she's small.
She's so good.
But she has some tremendous heart, and man, she plays hard. You watch the game against USC, she played harder than anybody, 2 times, 3 times anyone else. And you pair Olivia Miles with her after missing all of last season with the ACL injury. That's been a dynamic duo. Sonia Citron is a great shooter. I mentioned Kate Cavall. She provides a lot of post presence. I think she's like 2nd in the country in rebounding. She had like averaging 13 rebounds a game, at least prior to the USC game. She's been dominant. I just think there's a lot of pieces with Notre Dame that can really help them make a deep run. I love Niele Ivey. She's played at Notre Dame. She loves South Bend. This team could be really dangerous when they begin to figure everything out together.
Well, I'm going to take it to the men's side because I agree those are 2 very good picks. I'm liking the Auburn Tigers, though. They've looked very, very strong throughout this season. I finally think this is the year for the Tigers. MJ, I know you're going to have a lot to say about that. So we'll toss it to you. You know what? Let's hear about Auburn men's basketball.
Yeah, so I think Auburn is a team that they're good. I mean, they've clearly proven they're a good bunch. I mean, they went to Maui and beat everyone they played. And they went to Cameron and put up a really good fight against Duke. Now, my biggest issue with Auburn is I think in college basketball on the men's side, when your best player in Janai Broome is a post player, I just don't know if that's dynamic enough to make a big run. I think Broome's a very talented player, don't get me wrong. Chad Baker-Mazara is having a great start to the season as well, but I just don't know if I've seen the consistency with Bruce Pearl-coached Auburn teams year in and year out. They've been really good to start the year. You get into SEC play, that team in Tuscaloosa starts to hit you in the mouth a little bit. You start seeing teams like Texas who are pretty good. Trey Johnson's having a good year. Auburn's going to be a good team. I don't know how good they're going to be, though.
All right, well, we have a special thing planned, and we've done this before, but I have a little bit something up my sleeve. And we are going to write down our national championship, not only the title match for both the men's and women's side, and we're also going to write down where do we think the USC women's basketball team can get to in this upcoming tournament. So pull out your pens. That's 3 things. 3 things you have to write down.
You disrespecting the men like that.
What do you mean? Well, okay. If you want, Hayes, you know what? If you want, you can put down what you think the men's team is going to be.
You said 3 things you said.
So the national title. Oh,
that's fine.
I might need to borrow your
that's
pen.
fine.
The national championship matchup for the men's and women's side. The winner of both those games. And then how far the women's team for USC can make it in the tournament. And so we're going to seal these letters up once we're done. And we're not going to open it until after March Madness. So one of us is going to look really smart. Probably most of us are not going to.
Probably me.
Probably you. Well, we'll see. I don't know about that.
I mean, I'm pretty good at my March Madness picks.
I'm awful at my March Madness picks, and we're currently in December. This is not going to go well for me. I can already tell.
I did pick New Mexico to go to the Elite Eight last year. That didn't go very well.
I do remember that.
It's okay. New Mexico, they've had some big wins, though.
I'm sure sometimes you feel like you have to write down Alabama.
I'm actually not writing them down. I promise you.
We'll see about that come March/April, MJ.
I can see some more consistency from the Tide. I'll feel good about them.
Yeah, I do think Auburn's gonna beat us. The team from Tuscaloosa, as you like to say.
The team from Tuscaloosa. Wait, I have to pick like opponent too. Right?
You have to pick
Yeah,
the
I'm struggling on the
matchup and
men's
then
side.
the winner.
The men's side is hard. Oh god,
I don't think Kansas is that good.
no, fraudulent.
Yeah. Walk us through your picks a little bit. You don't have to tell us the teams.
Yeah.
But I just kind of want to hear your thinking because it's tough to tell
Sure.
at this point in the
It
season.
really is.
Yeah,
So
it's really hard.
I'll start with the men's side. I'm a huge fan of Duke this year. I mean, it's not just Cooper Flagg, but I think Cooper Flagg, A, is a incredibly dynamic player, but B, there are a lot of good pieces on that team. Isaiah Evans had 18 points in the first half against Auburn the other day, and the first game he's really played this season. Sion James, also off the bench, is great. Malawach, Con Knipple, I mean, you can keep going on. Caleb Foster, Tyrese Proctor. It's a deep team, and I think John Shire finally has his feet wet at Duke, being the head coach, and I think he's got his best team so far in his Duke tenure. I've got Duke going pretty far.
Going pretty far. Okay, but national championship or are
Just to
Yeah,
know,
don't- yeah,
I'm
don't-
just
actually don't tell me.
disrespecting someone, and I won't say who. That was just.
Disrespecting somebody.
I'm just looking
What?
at yours.
wow? I did
Just-
see your
just
mouth
cheating.
kind of
Yeah,
drop
what the
after looking
heck?
at his thing.
Honestly,
I
here we
found
go.
something interesting on yours. I'm gonna write down mine really quick because I've been thinking about this a long time. MJ, I know you're for one not gonna like this. Oh man, I forgot my
I'm
second
just
team.
scratching things out.
All right, well, you guys are gonna seal it up.
I can take
will
this.
I will write down mine
I'll
later.
take them.
Just
Keep
to make
them
sure
safe.
we can keep time. But we talked about USC football and basketball team, but the Trojans' best sport might just be track and field. We at the Water Cooler had a chance to talk to one of these athletes. Let's take a look.
Hey, y'all ready, fellas? Hey, fella! Hey, fella! Y'all ready for it? Hey, fella! Y'all ready for it? Y'all ready for it? Hell yeah! Y'all, so out the side.
Hi, I'm Yemi Mary Johnson. I'm a track and field athlete at USC, and this year I won a bronze medal at the Paris Olympics. So I started track not too long ago, to be honest. I started running properly maybe 2019, but as we all know, when COVID hit, 2020, there was no competitions. So the real first 400 meters I raced was in 2021. Yeah, I guess that was my introduction to track. My brother brought me in because he ran track. Before that, I had done gymnastics, but I kept getting injured, so my parents pulled me out, and I just sort of dabbled in sports until I fell into track. So Olympics was always a goal of mine for Paris 2024. So there's two things you have to do to qualify for the Olympics. First is you have to run the standard time, which was 50.95. I missed out on that, so I didn't get the individual time, but I did make the relay team by being top 8 seeds in the UK at the time. And yeah, I came third at British trials, and that secured my place for Paris. I think something I really enjoyed was being able to be around so many different sports. I don't think you're exposed to that many different sports and countries at the same time, other than at the Olympics, because obviously we all have different seasons, different world championships. So I think that was a really unique experience to Paris, but also just being motivated by how driven all the athletes I was surrounded by. That was really incredible and really inspired me. I trained here all the way up to June, and then I trained a little bit at home just before the Olympics, but most of my training was at USC with Coach Watts. So the story of how I ended up coming to USC is quite interesting. I actually did not know the NCAA system existed at all, or that you could even go to a college here on a scholarship, fully paid, and compete in the collegiate system. So I didn't know about anything that was going on in America with collegiate sports until 2021, which was quite late, and I was already enrolled in university in my first year in the UK. So I completed my first year in the UK at the University of Nottingham, and my second year I came to USC. So I do graduate this year, but I'm a junior on the track. I think it's great to be part of a team environment, especially in such an individual sport. I think there's nowhere else other than the NCAA system and in collegiate sports that you're able to compete in an individual sport and still make it so much about the team. So I think that's a great, unique experience to collegiate athletics. And yeah, thank you, fight on, and passing it back to Thomas at the studio.
Well, it's always fun to see our fellow Trojans at the Olympics, so best of luck to you and all other USC Olympians when Los Angeles hosts the 2028 Olympics. I'm now joined on the couches by Sebastian Bustamante, Kyle Frankel, and Dylan Luden. We might be in December, but I'm still thinking about Thanksgiving. I was personally sitting at the table with the likes of my great Aunt Pam, my Nana, and my grandpa. It was really nice. He gave me a cowboy hat. It was pretty awesome. But that's besides the point. And in the spirit of Thanksgiving, we wanted to talk about our ideal Thanksgiving dinner guests. Let's hear from me first, because I love Jameis Winston. I want Jameis Winston at all of my dinners, personally. He's the funny one of the
a little excessive.
Well,
all the dinners.
I'll take him at all my
all my
dinners.
meals.
Maybe dinner, but like
Every
first
meal.
thing in the morning,
Yes.
after the gym,
Yes.
Yeah.
before you go to sleep.
Yes.
He has the funniest sound bites in the NFL. He would just be a hoot to talk to. Really liven up a Thanksgiving dinner. A hoot? All right, man. Sebastian, ideal Thanksgiving dinner guest.
Listen, I mean, my family takes Thanksgiving very seriously. It's a high intensity holiday. You know, it's about health, hot tubbing, gym, bachata, merengue, salsa. Like, I need a guest who's going to come in there, be able to dance with my mother, and still chef something up and crack some jokes. So I'm going with Kyrie Irving. Like, I mean, I know that may seem like a
You
crazy
could definitely
pick.
do all those things.
No, 100%. And let me break it down why. Like if I'm on Instagram Reels, it's probably like stocks, NBA, and then out of nowhere I just see a Kyrie motivational speech. I feel like I'm in the right place.
I've never seen one.
I feel like I'm doing
Doesn't
something
that also?
right.
I feel like that also kind of fits in with NBA.
It does, but it's a subsection, and it's mind and motivation. And
Gotcha.
it goes right with the themes that I'm discussing for Thanksgiving. And it'll be great for my mom and sister. You know, like my mom's feed is all Shakira videos, and my sister is all Kardashian. So it would be great to get like another influencer in the mix here.
Cool.
And then, did you not see him on Kai Cenat's stream, dude? He was teaching kids how to play basketball. He was dancing. He was breaking it down. Like,
Personally, did not watch Kai Cenat's stream. Can't say that I did.
Well, Kyle, I want to hear about your Thanksgiving dinner
Yeah,
guest.
I'm not a big Kyrie guy, but that's another story. I'm actually upset I didn't think of Jameis, because I agree with you. I want Jameis at every meal, I would pay Jameis to just like be my friend and just hang around. I'm with Charles Barkley. That's another guy I would love to just hang out with. Chuck always got the best comments on the desk. There's a lot of that we probably can't say, but I think one of my favorite Chuck moments, he's just himself. And if anyone remembers, he was on the college basketball pregame show a few years ago, and he said, when I was at Auburn and we used to have back-to-backs, we would wash our jerseys. We would just wear our uniforms in the showers. We just go in the showers, just wear our uniforms. Everyone's making fun of him.
Sounds like
that's
Chuck.
Yeah, that's just Chuck being
Sounds
Chuck.
like Chuck.
That's efficiency. Chuck gets to the point.
Do we think he
I
actually
don't
did
know
that?
if efficiency sounds
He
like
doesn't
Chuck.
care what other people think. That's just Chuck. That's
Well,
just
do
Chuck
we
being Chuck.
think he actually did that? Do we think he actually showered with his jerseys on?
absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
I think he
That's
thinks he
part
did
of it.
that.
He
I
thinks
think he
did.
believes he did that. I don't know whether he did or not. But
He's like LeBron. Just
I would
woke
love.
up.
Yeah, I'd love to
Had
hear
a
the
dream
story.
that I played for Coach K.
Yeah,
No,
he
but
could,
Charles actually does it though.
yeah, he could tell the story of Thanksgiving. I'd love to
He
hear.
backs it up. Had the donuts though, for sure.
All right,
That was
Dylan.
me.
Listen, I'm going,
But accurate.
with a random guest. You guys are never gonna believe it, but I want Darvin Ham at my Thanksgiving meal. And you know
Explain.
why? You know why?
Could've given
He
me a
doesn't.
thousand
He
if I
doesn't
would've
say
gotten
anything
it.
Listen,
in the
At
Lakers huddle.
Thanksgiving,
So how's
I
Milwaukee?
make sure that I don't eat breakfast and I don't eat lunch. I need to eat all the food I can at dinner. And you know what Darvin Ham does? He puts his hands in his pockets and he will not eat any of the food. He's also a really
That's
good
why you
motivator.
want him at Thanksgiving?
He's also a really good motivator. Have you ever seen his pep talks in the huddle? He writes messages on the boards instead of plays. That's what I need. I need motivational words, and he's very good at saluting. But anyways,
Cranberry sauce, left.
besides the point, if it's not Darvin Ham, I want Shannon Sharp at my Thanksgiving meal too. He is such a motivational guy. He's built like a Greek statue. Look at those veneers; those are so white. I mean, this dude is dressed to the nines.
Does that-
And
What is with you guys in motivational speeches? I would have a
because
good time.
I need to be
I'm with you
motivated
there.
to
I'm
eat
with you
more
there.
food.
All right,
and by the
well,
way, besides
That's on you. You got to motivate
I
yourself
don't
for
think
Thanksgiving.
Darvin Ham is that
Speaking of
motivational.
motivational, let me give you a quote right now from Shannon Sharp. If you wear a watch to tell time, I wear a watch to tell you how valuable my time is.
Some would call that cocky.
Do you want him doing that
Me.
to you?
Yes, I want the motivation.
I think so.
I need
I
the
got 15
motivation to
minutes
eat
left.
all I can. Besides, I can also teach him a lesson about how to use Instagram properly.
That's a good one.
Okay.
I personally don't want my think team to be cocky, though. That's just me, though.
All right, well, that was fun. I had a good time.
Variety.
And I'm going to have a great time when Jameis Winston comes to my Christmas. So, but let's take another break. And when we come back, we close out the water cooler season with NFL coaching vacancies, chatter with ourselves to talk about the rest of the show, and one final great debate. You won't want to miss it. Well, it's time for chatter with ourselves. I'm now joined on the desk by Kyle Frankel and Sebastian Bustamante to close out our season. We already have 3 NFL coaching vacancies, and the season isn't even over yet. The Jets, Saints, Bears all have openings. Yes, that does mean Caleb Williams is free from Matt Eberflus. Who do you guys expect to fill these 3 open roles?
Well, I think the leader for all of these roles should be Matt Vrabel. He is a leader of men. I know the Bears have been out there saying they want a leader of men. They're kind of overusing the cliche a lot, but that's Matt Vrabel. Now,
Mike Vrabel.
Mike Vrabel. He's a leader of men. The important part is that he's a leader of men, okay?
He probably knows their first names too.
Mike, I'm sorry. I want you on the Jets. I don't think he'll go there. I know the report came out the other day that like he's open to the Jets if he approves of the GM, and he's not going to listen to He's going to listen to Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick's going to tell him don't go to that absolute clown show of an organization. And he probably shouldn't. But I would love Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel was a head coach for 5 seasons, 3 playoff berths, 54-45 with some bad Titans teams, some really, really mediocre Titans teams. He's a guy who wins close games. Whenever you see a close spread, whenever you see Mike Vrabel's a close underdog, you always take Mike Vrabel. And that's a guy you want. That's a leader of men. That's a head coach.
And that's Mike Vrabel.
And that's Mike Vrabel.
Leader of men.
Sebastian?
I'm going to go with Ben Johnson. I don't know if I would open up with, he's a leader of men, but he's solid.
He's not as much of a leader of men as Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, but the Lions are 12-1, so, I mean, I'm pretty pumped. And I love how he comes out with this energy, right? He knows his value. He's not just going to join any organization. Like, he genuinely could stay with the Lions. And if I think he's going anywhere, shout out Hayes, he's going to go to the Bears. I mean, they've got exactly what he's looking for, a young rising star and a QB, good pieces on both sides of the ball, and an organization that's fixing their past mistakes. He's not going to go just join some team, stay there for 2 years, and like, oh, okay, we want another head coach. Like, he's either going to stay with Amon-Ra and with Jared Goff and everything that he's built there on the offense, where he likes to call the shots, or he's going to move on somewhere long term. Like, what's up?
Are the Bears going to fix their past mistakes? Is the Bears owner going to fix his...
Hey, it's a process, dude. Okay, not like
McCaskey's haven't fixed their
the process
mistakes
has been
in
going on
100
for years.
years.
Well, maybe he's
It's been 100
maybe
years
he's
of
the missing
mistakes.
piece. Maybe he's the missing piece.
I agree. I do like Ben Johnson.
Thank you.
But
Thank you, Thomas.
do we expect any other coaching vacancies before the year is over?
Yes, Raiders. Antonio Pierce, I liked the hire at the time. The interim coach, he kind of got everybody going, got the boys buzzing. They rattled off a few wins, and it was like, oh, here's this new exciting guy.
Interim leader of men.
He was an interim leader of men. Actually, that's a great point. He's not leading the men great right now, and it doesn't look good. I expect the Raiders to be looking for a new coach, especially as they are likely going to pick a QB in this draft. Get a new coach, get a new QB. Don't saddle your new QB with a past head coach that might be pretty bad, like the Bears did with Caleb Williams.
Anything for you, Sebastian? Any other expected coaching vacancies?
Oh yeah, I think totally expected Belichick to the Jets. I mean, I think everyone sees this coming. The experiment continues to go on, and Kyle's very excited.
Fun fact, only head coach in Jets history without a losing record. Coached 0 games.
Oh, wow.
Well, that's why he's
Resigned on a napkin.
Well, sticking on the topic of NFL, let's talk NFL awards. We are in the midst of Week 14, and we're getting a much clearer picture of who's going to come home as big winners. Who are your picks for MVP, Rookie of the Year, and Offensive Player of the Year?
Yeah, well, I think Kyle didn't really like my going with the favorite take with Travis Hunter, so I'm going to spice things up. I'm going with Lamar Jackson. I mean, he's second in passing yards, second in passing touchdowns. He's had a great season. I don't think enough people are talking about him. Yes, the counter-argument is the Ravens are 8-5. But, like, they lost to the Chiefs in Week 1, so, like, in my eyes, they're, like, 9-4. They were warming up. They were getting ready. and he's having a great year. So I think he's primed for a third MVP, but most likely it'll probably go to like Josh Allen because the Bills are 10-2, but I want to see Lamar get it.
We always give this award to QB, right? It always goes to QB, best QB in the league, who's probably on one of the best teams. Problem this year is that the best QB in the league is Joe Burrow. He's first in touchdowns, first in yards, playing at an MVP level. He absolutely is. The problem is the Bengals stink. The Bengals stink, so that's why he's not going to win it. And that's why we shouldn't give it to a quarterback. We should give it to Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley goes to the division rival this year, and he's been nothing short of spectacular. Nothing short of spectacular. He's first in yards among running backs. He's only had 4 games with less than 100 this year, and he's on 2K Watch. 2K Watch, on single-season rushing record watch, and where you need to win the MVP. You need some big highlights, backwards hurdle, never been done before, and you need prime-time moments. Just a couple weeks ago, he broke the single-season rushing record, or single-game rushing record on Sunday Night Football. That's a prime-time moment. That's a prime-time player. That's an MVP.
Wow. So I assume that he's your pick for Offensive Player of the Year in that case then too, yeah? It has to be?
I think by transitive property, yeah.
I like Josh Allen for MVP. I think it's just his year. I feel he's always been in the shadows and he's always been behind somebody else. But I think this is finally his year. He's leading one of the best teams in the AFC. I like Saquon Barkley as Offensive Player of the Year. I just don't know if the QB trend is going to get bucked this year. Yeah. So I go Josh Allen, MVP. Barkley, Offensive Player of the Year. But let's talk about Rookie of the Year. And I know somebody's excited to talk about Rookie of the Year.
Now Thomas, when the Broncos were, I'll say I haven't been a fan of this guy for a while. When he was in college, I wasn't a fan of him. When he got drafted, I wasn't a fan of him. I thought he was bad. Thought he stayed in college way too long, just an adult playing amongst boys in college, and that's why he was that good. And I'm man enough to admit when I was wrong. I made fun of Sean Payton for saying that like they wanted this guy and they were tricking other teams not to get him. I'm a believer. I've been turned. Hallelujah! I'm a believer. Bo Nix. Bo Nix is the guy. He's first among rookie quarterbacks in yards, in touchdowns. He's got a stellar touchdown-interception ratio. He's leading a really good Broncos team. Really good Broncos team. Going to make the playoffs. He's been nothing short of basically awesome the last 6 weeks of the season. I think he's thrown for over 200 yards in 6 straight games. Bo Nix is the guy. Jaden Daniels had the hot start. He's got to calm down. It's Bo Nix.
Well, let's end NFL chatter, unfortunately, because we have to move on. But it's time for our final great debate of the semester, Roll the Bump. Major League Baseball is the only sports league of the 4 most popular in the United States without a salary cap, rather using a luxury tax threshold. That has allowed teams to use the system to their advantage, particularly favoring big market squads. The Dodgers have also started to play the system by deferring millions of dollars on their contracts. Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith, Freddie Freeman, Tommy Edman, Mookie Betts, and recent signing Blake Snell all have millions of dollars of deferred money on their contracts. So our debate question is do we think Major League Baseball, A, should have a salary cap or a spending limit?
Hi, Dylan. Welcome to the desk.
And as we welcome Dylan Luden to the desk. And B, is there a way to solve this deferred money issue?
You know what? Why are we acting like deferring money is a brand new concept in Major League Baseball? Kyle, as a Mets fan, you know the most glorious day in Mets franchise history is Bobby Bonilla Day, where he gets paid $1 million every single year for how many years? Around 30?
1 million. I'm just going to say 1 million. We're talking about Shohei Ohtani like $680 million.
See, that is absurd. I do agree, and I feel like there should be some sort of limit, but I don't think teams should stop deferring money. I think it's a smart strategy. And why aren't other teams doing this? It's just, the Dodgers have built a model franchise. Ohtani wanted to come and play for them. And now look, everyone wants to play with Shohei Ohtani. He's the greatest baseball player to ever live. And I think they should not have a salary cap, maybe a salary floor to get these owners who do not spend money to spend money. Luis Severino just signed a $67 million contract with the A's. That's their highest contract ever. And Andrew Benintendi had an $80 million contract with the White Sox. Highest contract ever. These owners need to start spending money.
All right, rapid fire, Kyle.
Oh, yeah, no. You do need the owners to start spending money. I do think there should be a salary cap. It's kind of unfair. The Dodgers are paying one guy what the highest contract is in A's history. So
it is kind of crazy.
Unfair.
But it feels weird to say, but get ready for the final segment of our semester. Roll the final memos bump. It is the season finale, and we wanted to give you an inside look into how we put on our show. Our crew has you covered with a look behind the scenes. All of that and more coming right up. It's the Water Cooler. Where else would you rather be? Well, we have everyone back on the set, and we wanted to give a big thank you to everyone who put on this show. Of course, Steve Martinez. We couldn't put it on without him, our faculty advisor. So thank you so much for tuning in this entire season, and we will see you in 2025.